Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Pop Anime Comics here from PopAnimeComics.com and the Pop Anime Comics Lounge podcast, where I interview voice actors, comic writers, artists, cosplayers, and professional wrestlers. And this is Attack on Titan Season 3, Episode 53, Perfect Game. Breaking it down each week, I say it. This is a companion to a panel I do called Exploring Dystopia Through Attack on Titan, The Walking Dead, and Fahrenheit 451. I do that panel 3 times a year at best, and this is meant to be a companion. I read about The Walking Dead in article form on my website, which is also a companion to that panel. So the episode, pretty much the Titans have gained the upper hand. So the Colossal Titan is walking towards the wall and it's spraying fire all over, and Armin and the rest of the Survey Corps that have survived don't really know how to deal with it. They try using the Thunder Spears, and that proves to be ineffective as the steam blows it away, and they don't really know how to deal with that. And as they're attempting to deal with that, Rainer wakes up and the Armored Titan is back up, which provides another problem for the Survey Corps and what they're going to do. And Armin's kind of having a panic attack because he has no idea what to do. Jean takes over, orders everyone near the river, and they try to distract Bertenholt, but that doesn't really do anything. He's the Colossal Titan, and so that's kind of what's going on that front. And on the other side, the Beast Titan starts making moves where it starts taking boulders that are being delivered by this other shape-shifting Titan that we don't know who that is, and those boulders are being crushed and thrown at the village outside the wall, and it's leveling everything, and in the process, multiple members of the Survey Corps wind up getting killed, damaged, hurt, and the Beast Titan is pretty much implementing a plan where he is attempting to level everything in the pathway, and he has a pretty good idea of what the Survey Corps' idea is to move all their horses in case of a retreat, and he's got them pinned down. And in the process of throwing these rocks, he crushes a boulder and then throws it, creates a massive wind stream, as well as debris is falling all over, and he's slowly killing off the Survey Corps members while the Colossal Titan is inside the wall spraying fire, which is flattening everything with the attempt to capture Eren. And so that's kind of what goes on, and in this entire process, Erwin and Levi have a discussion about, can they retreat, who can they take down the Beast Titan, can they counterattack, if they can't counterattack, how do we retreat? And then Erwin comes up with this brilliant concept of saying we're going to essentially bull rush the Beast Titan, and in the process shoot off our smoke signals, and this is going to create a massive distraction for Levi to come in and assassinate the Beast Titan. And how that's gonna, and most of the Survey Corps members are gonna die during this mission because they are the distraction. The young recruits are the distraction, but this is such a slim chance of victory and is the only option that they have to deal with the Beast Titan. And so that's kind of what's going on. And then Erwin gets into this philosophical stuff, and I've been saying it 5 years ago. I said it in my panel where Erwin has this complication where he caused his father's death. We find that out in season 2, where the government assassinated and killed his father because he was speaking and his father was teaching things about the old history that shouldn't have been spoken about, and how Erwin has this conscious guiltiness of that and has carried it. And this is something that him going to the basement and seeing the basement and understanding the basement and achieving that knowledge and freeing that knowledge and restoring memories and restoring that history is consciously within Erwin's guilt. And so that's something that he speaks to Levi about, and he's talking about that, and he's saying that this is like the moment where we have to decide if that's what we're going to do, and that there is no retreat, essentially, is what he's getting at. And he goes and he quotes saying, "I owe it to all my comrades." And in this moment, he's kind of having a flashback where all the people he's led and have died with him as a commander before he was a commander during his command. And he owes them in many ways this knowledge and this quest. And he says, I want to see the inside of the basement, but if my death is a result of me not seeing that, but it allows us to achieve a victory, then that's a small price to pay. And that's what he's really getting at. And he doesn't say that per se, but he makes it explicitly clear that he is willing to forego his own satisfaction and his own restoration of guilt, for lack of a better word, and everything that he's worked for and everything that's made him who he is as a character and everything that's led him up to this point as seeking the truth and restoring the truth and pushing forward the truth and almost engaging in a civil, in fact, engaging in a civil war and overthrowing a government to get to this point of truth. And this is the final piece, but he is willing to sacrifice all that in order to assure victory. And so upon that, as I stated, they lead a charge, and they're essentially about to bull rush the Beast Titan. They're divided into 3 groups using smoke, and the whole purpose is to give Levy an entire moment to make a move to assassinate the Beast Titan. And so that's kind of the episode and what's going on. And the episode's titled Perfect Game, because in many ways, the Colossal Titan, the Armor Titan's back in, and the Beast Titan have set themselves up to be a perfect game and to employ strategy. And I mentioned that in a few other videos before this one, and I spoke about that, how this is very strategical now. Now we're dealing with geopolitics and how military foreign policy and how to engage in military conflicts, which is what Attack on Titan, which is what the second half of this season really is. And so we're engaging in that now, and there is a lot of strategy being employed now between the Beast Titan, the Armor Titan, the Colossal Titan. And in response, the Survey Corps is now engaging in their counter strategy to that, where they're bull rushing with the whole purpose that they're betting everything on Levy. And how they're providing a distraction, and that distraction makes them a viable target. But if we look at military strategy, sometimes you need to have a viable target so that you have other forces that can then sneak in and sneak around and sneak by that deliver fatal blows and almost target a commanding officer, which is what the Beast Titan is in this circumstance. Not saying Raynor or Burdenholt aren't either, but the theory here is that they're almost cutting the head of the snake off. And that's what's going on. That's what they're attempting to do. And in that process, we now have the Beast Titan. It hits a bunch of Survey Corps members, and we see Erwin's horse getting hurt, and we see him getting hit, and that's where the episode ends. But it's that idea that that's what they're aiming for. And so that's everything that's going on. And it's very interesting, and we're now seeing strategy versus counter strategy versus another strategy, and we're seeing a lot more of that in Attack on Titan now, especially this half season. So still in season 3, but this is what we're dealing with right now, is that we have a lot of action, but we have a lot of things behind the scenes of those actions and why things are being done the way they're being done and why they're being implored. And I think that is so fascinating when we start analyzing this, and then we start realizing that this is a military anime. It's fun, it's dystopia, it's action-packed, it's somewhat got a sci-fi feel towards it. It's somewhat, you got giants and you got people transforming into things, but really the base of Attack on Titan for the second half of Season 3 is the military conflict, and geopolitics is now entering this anime. And I've said that before in videos. A bunch of them have gotten a decent amount of views for me because I'm not a big YouTuber here, but that's where we're going with this. And I talk about this in my panel a lot, and I don't talk about it enough in my panel because I only have 50 minutes. But again, this is where Attack on Titan is going. And so that's something that's very interesting. And as if you're reading the manga, this is really the entry point. Not to ruin anything, but there's obviously a lot more stuff that comes out in Attack on Titan, and we're going to get to some of the back history, hopefully during this season. But a lot of stuff is geopolitical, and this is the gateway to that. And so we're entering now a much larger world, where before the world was really only the city and the 3 walls, and there's these foreign entities in place, but now we're entering that realm, and that's what this season is really doing. And so this is just really getting to that point. And while this episode isn't really groundbreaking, it does set the idea that it keeps rooting it in and then seeding it in almost like a musket ball, that this is a strategy-based show now. This is military strategy is imperative in this show now. Every decision moving forward with this group and these people and the foreign threat is going to be strategy versus strategy, ideal versus ideal. What is best for government, for our government and your government? What is best for us to do as people? And what is best for us as a nation? And so now we're going to be dealing with a lot of that stuff. And so that's where this show is going. And when it's getting good and it's getting interesting because it's not enough now just to have the Titan power. And we're starting to see that. We're starting to see that because it's clear throughout this entire show that Armin has no answer to dealing with the Colossal Titan. And he has no answer on how to properly address that. And they had an answer to the Armored Titan, but now the fact that the Armored Titan is back up, they don't have an answer for that at the moment. And that's where the episode is going. And then they now are dealing with an answer for the Beast Titan, which is the counter strategy. And so that's where everything is going with this show, is that it. And I know I'm reiterating myself, but I can't reiterate myself enough because when we get to season 4, this is going to become even more interesting. And we get to the chapters in the manga that become animated. If we get there after this arc, it's going to become even more imperative that this is a strategy, well thought out. I have to think about what action I take because it has consequence A, B, or C, and A, B, and C, depending on what action I take, affects me and a bunch of other people and affects a way of life. And that's what this show is really going for now. And this episode just roots that in further and further and further. And each episode that does this and goes through the strategy really does that nicely. And so I think that's so interesting that's going on. And while I think this episode isn't the best episode, I thought last week's episode was much better than this week's episode. Just story-wise, and certain things could have been sped up in this episode. It is, though, rooting it in, and it's repeating it, and it's constantly getting it ingrained and ingrained and ingrained and ingrained until you say, I get it, because it has to be repeated. Unfortunately, for most people in society, things have to be repeated anywhere from 3 to 10 times before somebody gets it. And that's what this show is doing, is that it's constantly ingraining the fact that this is a strategy-based show. As I've mentioned it so many times because I'm trying to get it ingrained in your head that this is where we're going. That we're not going into a foreign policy, military type show where there are real threats and now we're dealing with a geopolitical entity versus just a local or even state side or federal side type of thing. And within a country, we're not dealing with other countries and other entities in Attack on Titan. So that's my entire take. And really, I think that the big takeaway, and I know we're 13 minutes, is it's just rooting it in. And we're starting to kind of get to the next big fight moment in Attack on Titan is what this episode really deals with. So thank you for watching. I'm just going to go through my social media really quickly. I know it's a lot. I know a lot of people really hyped up about this, excited about this. It's fun. But I'm just going to go through my social real quick. So obviously, if you haven't subscribed here, please do. Also, feel free to leave a comment. If you don't like this video, tell me why. I'm more than happy to discuss. I'm more than happy to engage. I love having comments. Giving me a dislike doesn't really do anything. Just says, oh, I don't like the video, and then you walk away. I mean, not courageous right there, just throwing it out there. So feel free to comment down below. Tell me what you love, what you don't love. We can have a conversation about it. Also, my website is popanimecomics.com, where I write about anime, comics, and pop culture. So check that out. A lot of cool stuff's out there. You might learn something. You might get an interesting take on something. So check that out. The podcast is the Pop Anime Comics Lounge podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio. I got new episodes come out Sunday nights, so check that out. Got a lot of cool stuff coming. So really cool people from all over, wrestlers, voice actors, comic writers, artists. You name it, I've probably interviewed them. And I'm always adding new people to my list of interviewing. And I got another 20 plus interviews to release. So you're good for the next 30 weeks of content. It's free, so check that out. Just type in Pop Anime Comics Lounge. You can find it. My Twitter is @PopAnimeComics. I have a pro wrestling tee shop That's Pop Anime Comics. So if you would like to support what I do on this thing, which is YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, website, panel appearances, and anything in that regard, feel free to buy a t-shirt. It's a great way how to support me if you're not interested in that. Links, by the way, is down below, so if you miss any of this, check that out. But if you don't want to support me, that's cool too. But realize that if you support people, all that money comes back into this. So if you like what I do and you want more of it, you have to buy a shirt or you have to share the video, because that's how we get more and more and more. If you don't, then I'm going to just stay where I'm at, and you're just going to get the same type of content at the same pace. But if you buy and support what I do, content production increases. Instagram, just throwing that out there, is Pop Anime Comics. Facebook is Pop Anime Comics. So check all that stuff out. A lot of cool stuff going on both of those platforms for me. A lot of fun stuff. It's all about fun as well as information sharing. And that's everything I got. So thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing everybody's response, see what everybody thinks about this episode, and hopefully you take away as much knowledge as I have on this topic. And I'm trying to remain as spoiler-free as possible, because I don't want to ruin anything, because I don't know where everybody else is in Attack on Titan and in the Attack on Titan universe. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next week breaking down more of Attack on Titan and having a conversation about it, because I think this stuff is awesome to talk about. Till next week, everybody, have a good one.